Bria Janelle, loudgenius.com. We are here at the Tribeca Film Festival on the red carpet of the amazing adventures of Wally and the Worm. You never know who we're going to grab, so make sure you guys stay tuned. We've got more information, more interviews, and exclusive coming your way right here only on loudgenius.com.
Loudgenius.com.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Bria Janelle, loudgenius.com. I'm here with the director of an upcoming movie. He's going to tell you about his man, Jason, right here. Jason, can you give us a creative process and the backstory as to how this film came about?
Sure. I wanted to do a film about Teofilo Stevenson, who was arguably the greatest boxer of all time. He was Cuban, and he won 3 consecutive Olympic gold medals in the 70s, starting in 1972. A few years later, in 1978, fight promoters wanted him to fight Muhammad Ali, but the fight never happened because powers that be in Cuba and the United States didn't ultimately want it to happen based on the geopolitics of the time.
There we go. So then hence revolution in the ring. So talk about the progression, because boxing and obviously ESPN, being on this carpet right here is a big deal. The revolution that you've seen of the sport of boxing, and it's such a violent sport,
Yeah, it's really 2 people stripped down to nothing but their courage. And in a way, what's interesting to me about boxers is they're similar to filmmakers in the sense that to be a good boxer, you have to be somewhat delusional. And I think as a filmmaker, we share some of that same DNA.
Okay. Now, when folks are watching this, what do you want them to take away from it? And what is your message that you want to portray in this film?
Well, I think that Teofilo Stevenson, as a figure who stood up for his beliefs and remained true to what he believed in terms of Castro's revolution, says a lot about him as a human being. And that was something that he risked basically being famous to the world by not participating in professional sports, but kept his home and hearth very close and dear to him.
So you're premiering this at Tribeca. Could we see a part 2 in the near future? Is there any other boxer that you would want to tell their story of, or the whole essence of that?
There's some development in the works on other boxing stories.
I am here with the man of the hour, Mr. Collin Hanks. You are the director of this awesome film. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How does it feel?
Feels good. Yeah, no, it's a fun time.
Okay.
I'm very excited.
So the amazing adventures of Wally and the Worm. Just give me the creative process and the backstory as to how this came about and how you even took an interest to this project.
I was reading a book by Phil Jackson, and he told this very brief story in one paragraph about a young kid that had to babysit Dennis Rodman for 10 days. And in the book it says it's a funny story. It's like Almost Famous meets Get Him to the Greek. And I went like, I want to see that movie. I want to see that movie. And so we interviewed Wally Blaze and Dennis Rodman, and they tell their tales of these incredibly decadent 10 days that they went around, and we animated it. So.
I can only imagine. Now, how ironic is it that this marks the 20th anniversary of the Bulls' 70-win season? You're premiering this short film right here, this animated series. How does it, coincidence?
That's not coincidence. That's called timing. No, all planned. All planned.
I love it. So give me a funny moment on set where you guys are like, cut, this is way too much for me.
There are a lot of stories about other things that happened during their time together that, shall we say, we couldn't put in the movie. No, but you want to know what? Wally is an incredibly fun guy, and I like him a lot, and he's a great storyteller. And him and Dennis had a really good time. They got some really funny stories, and to get Wally's side of the story and then hear Dennis's version of the story, that's when it gets really fun, sort of comparing and contrasting those two.
Okay, now before we let you go, I got to say this to you. Happy Record Store Day, National Record Store Day. So you didn't get a chance because you're stuck with us on the carpet as of now to pull some records, but if you had to pull a couple, which one would they be and why?
The biggest one that I'm really bummed I can't pick up today is the Iggy Pop record, the live at Royal Albert Hall. That one I'm going to have to hunt down
somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I was at that show, so that's like, now I'm like obsessed with like finding that one. So that one's pretty big. But really, to be honest, what I love about the day is just going to record stores and hanging out. It almost really doesn't matter what you buy.
Right.
So that I'm sort of, I can't get that back. But don't worry, I'll find my goods some way, somehow.
I'm here. You heard the conversation, the dialogue before with the loud genius himself. Now, I don't know if I can give him the proper introduction that he deserves, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself to our audience.
Okay, I'd love to. My name is Brian Biegel, local boy from New York City right here, filmmaker, director, and author. and I directed the film The Counterfeiter for ESPN's 30 for 30 series. And I'm just really excited to be here for the premiere of the film, and ready to see how it's received by the audience.
And I was gonna say, have you had a chance to see it on the big screen? Because they say you haven't really made it, until you put your name on a business, but you put your name on a big screen. So how does it feel?
The biggest screen I've seen my film on so far is 17 inches.
Give us a creative process and the backstory as to how this came about and how you even connected with ESPN, because when you think 30 for 30, that's a big deal, man.
30 for 30 is a big deal, and it's not an easy process getting a film through. There's an interesting backstory behind my motivation to this film, which has to do with my mom, who's unfortunately no longer around. But she was a huge baseball fan, all the way back to the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Okay.
And when Major League Baseball went on strike in 1994, she shut it off. She's like, I'm never watching baseball again. Then 4 years later, in 1998, when baseball had resumed, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa went on that big home run race, chasing after Roger Maris's record. And my mom's like, all right, I'm back in.
Right.
And Mom started watching baseball, and it inspired me to try and make a film about that home run race, but from a different perspective, not the obvious one of McGwire versus Sosa, who's going to win the home run race. So in my research, I found this story about these group of counterfeiters who were forging autographs on sports memorabilia and selling it for millions of dollars. And unbeknownst to them, there was an FBI sting operation following them for 3 years until it all came to a head. And that's what the film is about. It tells both sides of the story, both from the FBI's perspective and also from the counterfeiters' perspective.
Okay.
Until we see like undercover surveillance footage and wiretap phone calls, and it's sort of like a CSI meets baseball.
I was going to say, so was there at any point when you're filming this, where you're like, you know what, this is really real, like, hold on, let me just take a second to process what we're doing, or like that aha moment? What can you tell us about, explain that aha moment that you got on set?
Yeah, it's a true crime story that relates to sports, which is a very unusual element or even a genre. And it's one that I've personally taken a lot of interest in and have even done other nonfiction films about. And yeah, there is that wow moment, like, in U.S. history, this was the largest counterfeit bust that the FBI had ever brought down. $100 million of forged signatures on sports memorabilia.
That's insane.
And that's mind-blowing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, before we let you get up out of here, man, you said you're a New Yorker, right? I'm from Atlanta, so I'm a Braves fan. But see, you guys have the luxury of two teams. Who wins the World Series this year? Yankees or Mets? I'm putting you on the spot right here. Yankees or Mets?
It's not even close. It's the Mets.
You guys hear this? Sky, so you're a Mets fan?
I'm a Mets fan, but more importantly, objectively speaking, I can tell you the Mets are going to win the World Series this year.
Well, the Cubs won after 100 years, so the Mets may have a chance, but first they have to get through my Atlanta Braves. So in the meantime, make sure you guys stay tuned for more. It's an amazing film, ESPN 30 for 30. We're live here on the red carpet, only on loudgenius.com.
Hey, what's up? Loudgenius.com.